Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So remember a while ago how Kemi Badenoch insisted that the reason she never needs to apologise or U-turn is because she doesn't make mistakes. She doesn't do gaffes, she said. Well, she's made a couple in the last week alone, and one being reported on yesterday is a bit of a beauty. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So gaffes are, of course, part and parcel of political life. Some people like Boris Johnson make a joke of them, even try turning them into a virtue of sorts. Many will just put their hands up when they happen, clarify what they really meant and move on. But Kemi Badenoch, before she even became Conservative Party leader last year, said she doesn't do gaffes at all.
So I never have gaffes or, apologizing for something that I said, oh, that's not what I meant. I never have to clarify because I think very carefully about what I say.
So she never need apologise for anything she said or done because she's some sort of Zen mystic that never makes mistakes. Because the premise of her claim is a nonsense. Like in politics, you're not actually allowed to take your time before saying something often. You very often have to respond very quickly to something. So gaffes are going to happen. But Badenoch insists not, which is what makes the main source of fun from yesterday's Tory conference even funnier. See, at the conference you get goodie bags, and in the Tory goodie bag was a bar of chocolate, amongst other things. So why would a bar of chocolate generate so much excitement? Was there like a chance of a golden ticket in them or something? No. It's because the wrapper had a quote from Badenoch. It read, "When Labour negotiates, Britain loses." Kemi Badenoch. Now, let's ignore for now the fact that despite Labour's terrible self-promotion, people have actually at least given them credit for the way they've handled Donald Trump and working on better trade arrangements with the EU. Let's also ignore the fact that even if the public weren't giving the government credit for that at least, it's still a pretty poor quote. Like, if this is your best attack line from Badenoch in the last 11 months, that's pretty grim. But anyway, forget all that. The problem is that they'd spelt Britain wrong on the bar. They're blaming it on a printing error, but that's nonsense. I mean, OK, you might expect a printer to check these things because I'm sure printers get things from clients all the time that have these errors. But nonetheless, the error came from Tory HQ, not the printers. Now, of course, this isn't a gaffe as such. Badenoch didn't personally make that error. However, it is symptomatic of her leadership. Ordinarily, it would just attract a bit of good-natured banter, and that would be it. Right? I mean, there's been other ones like this, exactly like this, from Labour even. I remember the last Labour government, Department for Education, put out like a literacy poster. They'd spelt literacy wrong, right? But why is, the problem here is Badenoch insists she doesn't make mistakes. So to then have her own quote proudly displayed on a product with our island's name spelt wrong just invites extra ridicule because of her pompousness. It also invites us to look at the record of Little Miss Never Does Gaffes. I mean, just last week, she said that Northern Ireland voted to leave the EU. No, they voted to remain by 56% to 44%. In fact, it was even funnier than that because her exact words were, "Last time I checked, Northern Ireland did vote to leave." So she checked then. Exactly where did she check? Because even a simple Google search will give you the result quite clearly. Like, it would have been less embarrassing if she'd just got the result wrong, rather than claiming she'd actually looked it up and still got it wrong. See, there's lots of people who are not really deeply into their politics who might not have known how Northern Ireland voted. But they'd probably think if they looked it up, they would get the right answer. She's admitted to hacking the website of Harriet Harman, who was, I think at the time, leading the Labour Party, but certainly a senior Labour MP. This is a serious criminal offence, can carry a maximum prison sentence of up to 5 years if charges had been pressed. Now, if you're going to try to lead a party that pretends to be strong on law and order, are you going to claim that it's a good idea to make fun of committing serious crimes for larks? During last year's Tory conference, just before she became leader, she said that maternity pay is excessive and that about 10% of all civil servants should be in prison. She later had to walk back on both of those comments, even though she thinks very carefully about what she said and never has to clarify or apologise. Although she's right on the second count, she's never actually apologised. In fact, she blamed others for reporting her exact words for the need for her to clarify. No, I didn't mean that. It's their fault. They've misled you by quoting my exact words. Back in February, I did a video on this. It turned out that although she'd been elected Tory leader last November, she still hadn't sorted out the paperwork to formalise her position. So she spent several months not actually being officially registered as controller of the Conservative Party's assets. In April, she backed a foreign government over its attacks on our parliamentary sovereignty when 2 MPs were refused entry into Israel. But then Badenoch criticised China for doing exactly the same thing just a few days later. She tried to justify it by saying the two situations were different, although couldn't actually explain how it was, other than Israel good, China bad. And all of this is not even including the bizarre statements such as sandwiches don't exist, or if you eat anything for lunch that isn't a steak, you're a wimp, insisting that there is no systemic racism in Britain, and then earlier this summer complaining that she's been the victim of systemic racism. And you add all this together, and there are others as well I could go over. And what makes the chocolate bar episode so funny, even though it's not directly her fault, is it's just symptomatic of her leadership. Like when the stage collapsed at conference when Theresa May was leader and in trouble. Not her fault, but symptomatic of how things were going. Same here. Someone who insists she never makes gaffes and then has probably made more gaffes than any political leader since Boris Johnson. And he used them deliberately at times. And what makes this especially funny is Badenoch is simply so conceited that she won't be able to brush it off. Like normally you wouldn't make a big deal of this. You'd poke a little bit of fun, just a bit of light-hearted humour. But at the next PMQ, Starmer will 100% make reference to this. You could almost channel the spirit of John Smith in his famous retort about the state of Britain in the 1990s.
I select but a few of the Prime Minister's recent triumphs. The billions of pounds lost in the panic and fiasco of Black Wednesday. The grievous damage to our energy resources which the disastrous pit closures programme has inflicted upon this country. The shady double-dealing in the metric structural affair. The hopelessly bungled scandal of the education tests. And the disaster waiting to happen in the privatisation of our railways. No wonder we live in a country where the Grand National doesn't start an hotel. Well, the Grand National doesn't start and the hotels fall into the sea.
Starmer could list Badenoch's best gaffes and then end up with something like, I don't know, a Conservative leader who knows how to put her skills to criminal use hacking websites but doesn't know how to use a spell checker, who wants to lead this country but doesn't even know how to spell it. And any other leader would just laugh it off because, do you know what, no one's seriously going to think it's Badenoch's fault. But she's so prickly that she will take it personally and she'll try biting back, and she'll probably commit another gaffe in doing so. That should be worth watching. I know Starmer doesn't really need to needle Badenoch at this point. Neither she nor her party are a threat to him, but it will have entertainment value. I hope he comes up with a line that really winds her up. Should be fun. But there we go. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.